The Kethvar ships moved through space like silent death. For 3,000 years, these creatures had been the galaxy's worst nightmare. They didn't conquer worlds for resources or territory. They destroyed them for fun. Commander Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of Earth's orbital defense station, staring at the latest reports. Another star system had gone quiet. The Rigel colonies, home to 60,000 people just last week. Now there was nothing but empty space and floating debris. "Sir, we're getting the final transmission from Rigel 7, Lieutenant Jimin called from her console. Her voice was tight with worry. The recording crackled to life, screaming, explosions. Then a terrified voice. "They're not taking prisoners. They're not even taking resources. They're just killing everything that moves. Oh God, they're coming for the children now." Static. Hyunwoo closed his eyes. This was the same pattern they'd seen on 12 other worlds in the past. 6 months. The Kethvar would arrive, hunt down every living thing, then leave. No demands, no negotiations, just death. "How long until they reach Earth?" he asked. Captain Sujin pulled up the tactical display. Red dots marked dead systems, forming a clear path toward their blue planet. "Based on their movement pattern, maybe 2 weeks. They're following our radio signals, picking off our outer colonies first." Down on Earth, 8 billion people were going about their normal lives. Kids were in school. Parents were at work. Nobody knew that monsters from deeps. Space had already marked them for extinction. The Kethvar weren't like anything humans had ever imagined. They stood 3 meters tall, covered in black armor that looked like it was grown rather than made. Their ships were alive, massive organic creatures that could heal from damage and adapt to any weapon. But the worst part wasn't their technology. It was how much they enjoyed killing. Dr. He Jin had spent months studying the few survivor accounts from other species, the lucky ones who had escaped before their worlds died. Their stories were all the same. The Kethvar would land, spread terror, then systematically hunt down every living creature. They made it last as long as possible. Fear made the hunt more interesting. "They've wiped out civilizations that were thousands of years ahead of us," she reported to the Emergency Council. "Species with energy weapons, force fields, faster than light travel. None of it mattered." General Haewon studied the holographic display showing Earth's defenses. Missile satellites, laser platforms, a small fleet of patrol ships. It looked impressive until you realized they were facing enemies who had destroyed star-spanning empires. "What about evacuation?" someone suggested. "Where would we go?" Haewon replied. "They've already hit our closest colonies, and even if some of us escaped, they'd just hunt us down later. That's what they do. They're patient." The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Humanity had finally met something worse than itself. But what the Council didn't know was that other preparations were already underway. In military bases around the world, special forces units were studying everything they could about the Kethvar. Their biology, their tactics, their weaknesses. Sergeant Yunji was one of them. She'd volunteered for the new Xenocide Prevention Unit the day after seeing the Rigel transmission. Now she spent 18 hours a day learning how to kill aliens. "They're used to prey that runs," she explained to her squad. "Every species they've fought has either tried to hide or tried to negotiate. Nobody's ever tried to hunt them back." Her team was practicing in the underground tunnels beneath Seoul. If the Kethvar followed their usual pattern, they'd land in major cities first. Try to break human morale with a big, terrifying display. They were in for a surprise. Major Dong-hyun was coordinating similar preparations worldwide. His orders were simple. "When the aliens landed, don't run, don't hide, fight back and make it hurt. They think we're just another easy target," he told his officers. "They've studied our broadcasts, seen our movies, read our internet. They know what humans are like." He pulled up footage from Earth's history. Stalingrad, Iwo Jima, the Warsaw Ghetto. Humans fighting to the death against impossible odds. They don't know us at all. Far above Earth, the Kethvar hunting fleet was already adjusting course. Their war prime had designated this system as a routine harvest. One hunting pack should be enough. The species below seemed young, aggressive, but ultimately primitive. The bioships pulsed with anticipation. Soon they would taste new fear, hear new screams. The hunt was almost ready to begin. What they didn't realize was that this time something would be hunting them back. The stage was set. In 2 weeks, the galaxy's most feared predators would discover what happened when they tried to hunt the one species that refused to be prey. The silent worlds were about to get very loud. The first HFY ships descended through Earth's atmosphere like living nightmares. Their biohulls pulsed with sickly green light, designed to strike terror into any creature that saw them. They had used this same tactic on 1,000 worlds. It always worked, but as the alien drop pods crashed into downtown Seoul at dawn, something was different. Corporal Min Ho crouched on a rooftop, watching through his rifle scope as the first HFY emerged from their organic transport. The creature was even more terrifying in person. 3 meters of black, chitinous armor, with many joints and eyes that glowed like burning coals. "Contact," he whispered into his radio. "They're as ugly as the report said." The HFY warrior let out a bone-chilling roar that had made entire civilizations surrender in fear. It expected the small bipedal creatures to scatter and hide, as all prey did. Instead, Min Ho put a bullet right between its glowing eyes. The alien dropped like a stone. "Well, that was easier than expected," Min Ho muttered, already moving to his next position. The element of surprise wouldn't last long. 6 blocks away, Sergeant Yoon-ji waited in the subway tunnels with her team. They'd spent weeks preparing these underground passages, turning them into a maze of death traps. When the HFY hunting party came looking for hiding humans, they found something else entirely. The aliens moved through the tunnels with predatory confidence. They could smell human fear, hear human heartbeats. The hunt was proceeding normally. Then the explosives went off. The tunnel collapsed on 3 HFY warriors, their bioarmor crushed under tons of concrete and steel. The survivors spun around, trying to locate the threat, but Yoon-ji's team was already moving through maintenance shafts they'd prepared weeks ago. "They're trapped," she radioed to her squad. "Light them up." Gunfire erupted from multiple directions. The HFY had never faced prey that set traps. They had never encountered a species that turned their own hunting grounds into killing fields. Above ground, the alien bioship hovering over Seoul detected something wrong. 3 of its hunting party had stopped moving. Their biosignatures were gone. The ship mind, a collective intelligence that had orchestrated 1,000 successful hunts, experienced something new. Confusion. This was not following the standard pattern. The prey was supposed to run, hide, beg for mercy. Instead, they were fighting back with coordinated precision. Worse, they seemed to be winning. Dr. Hai-jin was already at work in her makeshift laboratory, studying the body that Min Ho's team had recovered. She'd been a forensic pathologist before the world changed. Now she was humanity's first xenobiologist. "Fascinating," she murmured, carefully dissecting the alien's armor plating. "It's organic but structured like ceramic. Incredibly strong, but..." She probed with her scalpel. "There are weak points at the joints." She immediately sent her findings to every military unit on Earth. Within hours, human weapons were being modified to target those specific vulnerabilities. The HFY War Prime aboard the command ship received reports that made no sense. A hunting party of 12 warriors had been reduced to 3 in less than an hour. The survivors spoke of coordinated ambushes, of prey that struck from multiple directions at once. "Send 2 more hunting parties," the War Prime ordered. "These creatures are more aggressive than expected, but they are still just prey." Captain So-young's reconnaissance team was waiting when the second wave landed. They'd been tracking the alien drop pods from the moment they entered atmosphere. As the HFY deployed in a park in central Seoul, they found themselves surrounded by humans who had been studying their every move. The aliens expected terror. Instead, they faced silence. Then, the snipers opened fire. Tae-yang squeezed his trigger from a building 800 meters away. His bullet, coated with a corrosive compound Dr. Hai-jin had developed, punched through the alien's armor at precisely the weak point she'd identified. Across the city, 29 other snipers fired simultaneously. The coordinated strike dropped. Half the HFY landing party before they could react. The survivors tried to retreat, but Major Dong-hyun's special forces were already moving to cut off their escape routes. These weren't random attacks. Every human action was calculated, planned, executed with military precision. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Kethvar found themselves outmatched. The aliens who survived long enough to retreat brought back reports that terrified their commanders. These humans didn't just fight back, they hunted. They studied their enemies, learned their weaknesses, then exploited them ruthlessly. Colonel Ji-hoon monitored the battle from his command bunker, watching as human forces systematically eliminated alien hunting parties across the globe. The same pattern was repeating in New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. The Kethvar had expected easy prey. Instead, they'd found apex predators. They made a mistake, Ji-hoon told his staff officers. They thought we were like every other species they'd hunted, passive, frightened, willing to accept death. He pulled up footage of human soldiers dragging alien bodies into underground facilities, where Dr. Hyejin's team was already dissecting them, learning their secrets, preparing better weapons. They don't understand what humans are. We don't just fight to survive, we fight to win. And when someone threatens our home, our families, our children... He paused, watching as another Kethvar hunting party was wiped out by human forces in São Paulo. We become something much worse than they are. The Kethvar War Prime stared at the tactical display showing the locations of its lost hunting parties. Red markers dotted the planet's surface. In just 6 hours, they had lost more warriors than in the previous 50 conquests combined. These humans were not prey. They were something else entirely, something that hunted back. 3 weeks after the first Kethvar landing, Private Tae Yang crouched in what used to be downtown Busan. The city was in ruins, but it wasn't empty. Hidden in the wreckage, human. Resistance fighters had turned every building into a potential weapon. The rifle in Tae Yang's hands barely looked human anymore. Engineers had been working around the clock, combining salvaged alien technology with Earth weapons. The result was something that could punch through Kethvar armor like paper. "Movement 2 o'clock," whispered Private Eugene from her position across the street. Through his scope, Tai Yang could see a Kethvar patrol moving through the rubble. 5 aliens, moving in their standard hunting formation. What they didn't know was that 30 human snipers had them surrounded. "All units, this is Sniper 1. Tae Yang spoke quietly into his modified comm system. The communication network had been upgraded too, using captured alien biotech to create untraceable signals. Target acquired. Confirm ready status. 29. Voices confirmed they were locked onto targets. Fire. The coordinated strike dropped all 5 aliens in less than 2 seconds, but this wasn't just about killing them anymore. Within minutes, recovery teams were dragging the bodies away for study. Every dead alien taught humanity something new. Dr. Hyejin had moved her laboratory 3 times as the fighting spread, but she never stopped working. Her dissection tables were covered with alien specimens, each one revealing new secrets about Kethvar biology. "Look at this," she called to her assistant, Dr. Min Seok. She was examining the nervous system of a freshly killed warrior. "Their neural pathways are completely different from ours. They process fear and pain in ways we don't understand. But more importantly, she was learning how to cause them fear and pain." The breakthrough came when she discovered that certain sound frequencies caused Kethvar warriors to become disoriented. Within days, human forces were equipped with sonic weapons that could incapacitate aliens without killing them. Live prisoners meant more information. Colonel Ji-hoon watched the interrogation through reinforced glass. The captured Kethvar warrior was strapped to a medical table, Dr. Hyejean's team working to understand its communication methods. "It keeps trying to send some kind of signal," reported Dr. Min Seok. "But we're jamming everything." That was the key. The Kethvar weren't just individual hunters. They were connected to their ships, their commanders, their entire fleet through biological communication networks. Cut those connections and they became confused, desperate, vulnerable. Captain So Young led her reconnaissance team through the abandoned subway tunnels of Seoul. They weren't running anymore. They were hunting. Her squad had been tracking a group of Kethvar scouts for 3 days, learning their patterns, studying their weaknesses. "They always check the same places," she explained to her team. "Sewers, basements, anywhere they think humans might hide. They can't understand that we're not hiding anymore." Her team had set up the perfect ambush. When the aliens came looking for cowering humans, They found empty rooms rigged with explosives and filled with toxic gas that Dr. Hyejin had developed specifically to target Kethvar respiratory systems. The aliens who survived the initial blast found themselves fighting blind in clouds of poison that didn't affect humans at all. Major Dong-hyun coordinated the larger strategy from his mobile command center. The old defensive tactics had been abandoned completely. Now, human forces operated like persistence hunters, the way their ancestors had hunted mammoths thousands of years ago. "We don't need to be stronger than them," he explained to his officers. "We need to be smarter, faster to adapt, and more patient. Every mistake they make teaches us something new." The Kethvar were learning this the hard way. Their standard tactics stopped working after the first week. Humans had studied their approach patterns and developed countermeasures for everything. Terror tactics. Humans had seen worse in their own history and kept fighting. Superior firepower? Human engineers were already reverse engineering alien weapons. Biological advantages. Dr. Hyejin's team was developing targeted poisons and sonic weapons that exploited alien weaknesses. Sergeant Yunji's Special Forces unit had become something the galaxy had never seen before. They moved through urban battlefields like ghosts, appearing wherever Kethvar forces were weakest, striking with surgical precision, then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. "Contact in Building C," she reported during a raid on an alien supply depot. 3 hostiles moving to eliminate, but elimination wasn't the goal anymore. Capture was better. Every living alien provided more intelligence, more biological samples, more insight into how their technology worked. The Kethvar. Command ship orbiting Earth received reports that made no sense to alien minds. Human forces weren't just resisting, they were evolving. Every day brought new tactics, new weapons, new strategies that the aliens had never encountered before. "They learn too quickly," reported one surviving war commander. "By the time we adapt to their methods, they have already changed to something else." The War Prime studied tactical displays showing human force movements. The patterns were unlike anything in their vast database of conquered species. These humans didn't fight like prey trying to survive. They fought like predators studying their next meal. Private Wu Jin finished installing the latest modification to his squad's communication system. They were using Kethvar biotechnology now, but improved. Human engineers had figured out how to make the alien systems work better than the aliens ever had. "Field test complete," he reported. "New comm system is operational and undetectable by enemy sensors. Around the world, similar modifications were being implemented. Human forces were becoming more alien than the aliens, while staying completely human where it mattered most. In their determination to survive, in their refusal to surrender, in their absolute commitment to hunt down anything that threatened their home." The learning curve was steep, but humans were climbing it faster than the Kethvar could adapt. Soon the galaxy's apex predators would discover that they had created something far more dangerous than themselves, an enemy that learned from every mistake. The Kethvar made their biggest mistake when they called for backup. Admiral Zhou watched from the lunar observation post as 3 massive bioships emerged from hyperspace, twice the size of the original hunting vessels. But these weren't just carrying more warriors. "Sir, we're detecting different life signs," reported Lieutenant Wu Jin, studying the scanner readings. "Smaller signatures, multiple age groups. I think they brought their families." Jae-sung smiled grimly. The aliens had gotten desperate enough to bring their young and support staff to what they thought would be an easy conquest. They still didn't understand what they were dealing with. "Perfect," he said. "Now we know where they really live." Down on Earth, the war had changed completely. What started as an invasion had become something else entirely. Captain Min Jung led her squad through the wreckage of downtown Tokyo. But they weren't defending anymore. They were hunting. "Target acquired," whispered Sergeant Kyung-soo from his concealed position. Through his scope, he could see a Kethvar supply team trying to establish a forward base. 3 warriors, 2 support staff, and what looked like technical equipment. But Min Jung's team had been watching this location for days. They knew the aliens' schedule, their patrol routes, even their bathroom breaks. Human intelligence networks had become frighteningly efficient at tracking alien movements. "Wait for my signal," Min Jung ordered. Her team had learned patience from studying the Kethvar themselves. The aliens were methodical hunters, but humans had become better at their own game. The attack came from 6 directions at once. Smoke. Grenades filled with Dr. Hyjin's latest toxin created a choking cloud that blinded the aliens, while barely affecting the humans in their modified gas masks. By the time the smoke cleared, all 5 Kethvar were down. Bag them and tag them, Minjung ordered. Intelligence wants to know what makes their support staff different from their warriors. This was happening worldwide. Human forces had stopped playing defense. Every alien on Earth was now a target for capture or elimination. The hunters had become the hunted. Commander Yujin stood in the converted mining facility that had become humanity's primary spaceship construction center. Around her, hundreds of workers were modifying captured Kethvar bioships, combining alien technology with human engineering. "Status report," she called to Chief Engineer Dong Hyun. "We've got 3 ships ready for space trials," he replied, wiping grease from his hands. "The biohulls are responding well to human neural interfaces. Turns out we're more compatible with their technology than they expected." The first test flight had been terrifying and exhilarating. Human pilots discovered they could not only control Kethvar bioships, but actually improve their performance. The living vessels responded to human emotions and instincts in ways that surprised everyone. "The ships seem to like being flown aggressively," reported test pilot Hyejin after her first solo flight. "They're built for predators, and they recognize us as the better predators." Lieutenant So Young monitored communications from the orbital command center, listening to intercepted Kethvar transmissions. The aliens were getting increasingly desperate. Their reports back to the fleet spoke of impossible losses, of prey that fought like apex predators. "They're requesting a full invasion. Force," she translated. "The War Prime is admitting they underestimated us." But what the Kethvar didn't know was that humans had already traced their communications back to the source. Dr. Min Seok's team had cracked their biocommunication network weeks ago. Every message the aliens sent home was also being received by human intelligence. "We know where their main fleet is stationed," reported Intelligence Officer Jimin during the emergency briefing. 17 light-years away in the Kepler system. They have a full invasion force there, hundreds of ships, millions of warriors. General Haewon studied the star charts with interest rather than fear. How long would it take them to get here? Text T. "Months at their current speed," but Sir Jimin hesitated. "Intelligence suggests we could get there first." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. "You want us to attack their home base?" Haewon said slowly. "Why wait for them to come to us?" asked Colonel Ji-hoon. "We have their ships, we understand their technology, and we know where they live." "The best defense is a good offense," Haewon finished. "I like it." Sergeant Yoon-ji led the first boarding action against a Kethvar bioship in Earth orbit. Her team had trained for weeks in captured alien vessels, learning how to move through the organic corridors, how to disable the ship's immune systems, how to take control of the vessel's nervous system. "Remember, we need the navigation data intact," she reminded her squad as they approached the alien ship in their modified boarding craft, "and try to keep some of the crew alive for questioning." The boarding action was swift and brutal. Humans moved through the bioship like a virus, systematically taking control of each section. The Kethvar crew, expecting to face terrified prey, instead found themselves outmatched by predators who had learned all their tricks. "Ship secured," Yoon-ji reported 20 minutes later. "Minimal casualties on our side. We have 12 alien prisoners and complete access to their navigation systems." Within hours, human technicians were downloading star charts, fleet positions, and detailed information about Kethvar society. The intelligence windfall was enormous, but the biggest surprise came when Dr. Hyejin examined the captured support staff. Unlike the warriors, these aliens showed clear signs of fear. They understood that something had gone terribly wrong with their species' latest hunt. "They know they're in trouble," she reported to the command staff. "The support castes are intelligent, enough to realize their warriors are being systematically eliminated. They're scared, and scared aliens made mistakes. Big ones." Admiral Jae-sung reviewed the final preparations for humanity's first interstellar offensive. 50 captured and modified bioships, crewed by humans who had learned to think like aliens while staying ruthlessly human. Target: Kethvar. Home fleet, he announced to his captains. Mission: complete elimination of hostile forces. The galaxy's former apex predators were about to discover what happened when they tried to hunt a species that refused to stay prey. The hunt was about to turn around completely. The Kethvar War Prime floated in its command chamber, its bio-armor cracked and leaking. For the first time in 3,000 years, it felt something that had been alien to its species since they became apex predators: genuine fear. The distress beacon it had sent toward Kethvar space should have brought salvation. Instead, it had brought doom. Commander Sung Min stood in the intelligence center aboard humanity's flagship, watching intercepted alien communications with satisfaction. "They still don't understand," he told his team. "They think we're just another prey species that got lucky." The beacon the War Prime had sent was now humanity's roadmap to complete Kethvar extermination. Human ships, their biohulls pulsing with stolen alien technology, were already jumping toward every Kethvar world in the galaxy. Captain Jiwoo commanded the lead assault group approaching the primary Kethvar homeworld. Through the viewports of her converted bioship, she could see the massive orbital installations that had been the launching point for 1,000 genocides. "All ships, this is Fleet Command," came Admiral Jae-sung's voice over the communication system. "Remember, we're not here to conquer. We're here to ensure they never hurt anyone again." The approach was silent and deadly. Human ships had learned to mask their biosignatures, to move through space like ghosts. The Kethvar homeworld's defenses were designed to stop conventional attacks, not predators who had learned to think like them. Lieutenant Yujin monitored the planetary scans from her position at the sensor station. Multiple population centers detected. Estimated 40 million Kethvar on the surface, including civilian populations. For a moment, the bridge fell silent. 40 million beings. Even if they were the species that had wiped out countless civilizations, the number was staggering. "Sir," called Navigator Minseok, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from the surface." Captain Jiwoo listened to the translated messages. The Kethvar were offering to negotiate, to establish territorial boundaries, to discuss terms of coexistence. "Too late for that," she said quietly. "How many species tried to surrender to them? How many worlds sent similar messages before they were wiped out?" Dr. Seo Jin, now serving as the fleet's xenobiologist and intelligence officer, had spent months studying Kethvar behavior patterns. Her final report was clinical and damning. Species Kethvar demonstrates no capacity for coexistence. Historical analysis of 1,247 contacted civilizations shows 0 instances of negotiated settlements. Recommended action: complete neutralization. The attack began at dawn on the Kethvar homeworld. Human forces struck with the same systematic precision the aliens had once used against other species. But where the Kethvar had hunted for sport, humans fought with cold efficiency. Sergeant Kyung-soo led his marines through the alien cities. The architecture was organic, grown rather than built, with corridors that pulsed like arteries. It should have been alien and terrifying. Instead, it felt familiar. Humans had spent months learning to live and fight in similar environments. "Resistance is minimal," he reported to command. "They're not used to being the ones under attack. The Kethvar had built their entire society around being apex predators. They had no experience with defense, no concept of fighting for survival against a superior enemy. When humans came for them with the same ruthless efficiency they had once displayed, the aliens simply broke." Major Dong-hyun coordinated the systematic dismantling of Kethvar military installations. Each facility was searched thoroughly, not for treasure or technology, but for evidence: records of conquered worlds, logs of extinct civilizations, databases of hunted species. "The numbers are staggering," reported Intelligence Officer Hai Jin. "They've destroyed over 2,000 civilizations in the past 3 millennia, trillions of beings. But humans weren't just there for revenge. They were there to ensure it never happened again." The final phase of the operation was the most difficult. Colonel So Young led the teams responsible for securing Kethvar breeding facilities and nurseries. Unlike their targets, humans had to make a choice about non-combatants. "Orders from Fleet Command," came the transmission. "All adult Kethvar are to be considered enemy combatants based on their species' biological imperatives for hunting behavior. Juveniles below maturity threshold are to be quarantined for behavioral modification research." It was a cold decision, but Dr. Seo Jin's psychological profiles had been clear. Adult Kethvar could not be reformed, could not be reasoned with, could not coexist with other species. They were biologically programmed to hunt and kill, but their young might be different. Captain Minjung supervised the establishment of containment facilities on the captured worlds. "We're not becoming them," she insisted to her staff. "We're preventing them from creating more of themselves." The Kethvar young would be raised in isolation, studied and evaluated. If they could learn to live without the hunting instinct, they might survive. If not, the galaxy's communication networks began broadcasting again as human fleets liberated world after world. Species that had hidden in fear for millennia cautiously sent out signals, testing to see if the nightmare was really over. Admiral Zhou stood on the bridge of his flagship, now orbiting the former Kethvar capital world. The organic cities below were dark and silent. Where 40 million apex predators had once planned the extinction of other species, now there was only quiet. "Status report," he requested. "All primary Kethvar worlds secured," reported Commander Sungmin. "Scattered. Hunting fleets throughout the galaxy are being tracked and eliminated. Estimated time to complete pacification, 6 months. General Haewon joined them from Earth via quantum communication. The galaxy is responding positively to our broadcasts. 17 species have come out of hiding in the past week. They're calling us the Liberators. But humans knew better. They weren't liberators. They were the new apex predators, and they had a choice to make about what that meant." Dr. Haijin's final recommendation was simple. "We hunt only those who prey on the innocent. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We ensure that what the Kethvar did never happens again." The silent worlds began to sing again, their transmissions now protected by human fleets patrolling the space lanes. The former apex predators had learned too late that there was always a bigger fish, and the biggest fish had decided to be the galaxy's guardian rather than its destroyer. The hunt was over. The age of protection had begun. Humanity had become what the universe needed: predators who chose their prey carefully and who hunted only those who hunted others. The new apex had arrived, and the galaxy was finally safe.